PayPal on the Facebook anyway.
Oh, good.
Not PayPal,
Patreon.
GoFundMe.
Have
Yeah,
you signed up for Patreon or anything?
not Patreon.
Okay.
GoFundMe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. What a day today. I've been out today. I've been down to the town because I had to do, because I'm a chairman of a stroke club. And yes, it's been a really stressful day today, but we got through it. Um, Now, I want to tell everybody what's been happening is that what usually happens is when we usually do podcast or radio, on our radio side of things, we're all right. What we've done is we've done a GoFund page and everybody's donated, everybody's been brilliant. That's fine, but we still need, I think it's another £150 for that. Now, if you got, I don't like asking people for money. We got a GoFund page on. We don't mind what we get, but we've got around about 24 hours to get this money, else we'd be off air. The trouble is, I've been trying to fund it for a long time now, and I can't keep doing it between me and the gatepost. So please, 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 I'm begging people to help. If it's anybody out there who's like a sponsor or anybody who would like to sponsor us, your a company who used to sponsor us, they did really, really well. They got, they've got a lot of work from it. They got a lot. Then they went off. So please, we need your help because we need your help so we can help other people. We've helped around about nearly 200 people now through mental illness, through other things as well. So we want to keep going, and we've got people who want to keep going too. So please, please, please. Anyway, hello, how are you?
I'm
Lauren?
good, thanks. I'm good, thanks. I just, I think if there is anybody listening that has a few pounds that they can throw at it, I think that would be fantastic. Obviously, I think this is a worthwhile
Yeah, yeah.
cause, considering I come here every week to chat with you, and I know the impact that we're having on people. So, yeah, if anybody can donate, please do.
Yeah, you got some response from it, didn't you? Was it?
Yeah, we've got Leatherman that sponsors us, and then we're working on a couple of other sponsors for specifically for dad stuff, and it's been great. We've had some really good partnerships.
Yeah, brilliant. Really good, really good. Now, I want to talk about attention-seeking children, really.
Hmm.
It's a bit of a topic, isn't it? Because some of our children, when they're younger, especially, they kind of like, if we don't, sometimes we can't be with them 24 hours a day or
Yeah,
nearly every hour of the day because
yeah,
mum and dad's working and or when they're home, it's like they want to be that they show attention all the time. We can't do it all the time.
that's right.
Should we make ourselves kind of like have the time to pay more attention to our children? Are we doing enough?
I think it's a multi-sided argument. Um, I think, yes, there are some significant problems with regards to the attention kids are getting because of distracted parenting. And so this is something that is going to be an episode coming up on our podcast in the next couple of weeks. Distracted parenting is a big problem, particularly with people, having their phone in their face, that sort of thing all the time, rather than doing activities with their kids. And it's something I am definitely guilty of too, given that I have a podcast and a business and all these sorts of things. Is I have a lot of things that pull my attention away from the kids. There's an argument too that kids don't seek attention; they seek attachment, and that that the issues we're creating is that we're not giving our kids a level of attachment to us that they need. And then you would have parents that, and I would support the expression that a lot of parents, their kids they're just looking for attention, right? And there's enough is never enough, that they're constantly pushing for more and more attention. Just like if you give to anything, it's constantly going to be seeking more and more, much like we do. We're human beings. And so you have to balance it, I think is the answer. My answer to everything is that balance is the key to life. And so you have to balance out being able to focus on yourself and the things that you need to accomplish and focus on the kids. What happens, though, is that balance winds up being a bit of a pendulum. And we have to make sure that we're always trying to return that pendulum to that center area, that you can't get so focused on your own personal stuff that you neglect your kids, but you also can't get so focused on your kids that you neglect everything else in your life, because then you're not going to be good at giving them the proper care.
Yeah. Do you think actually, as a world, say, altogether, do you think we're kind of like behind on kind of spending enough time with our children, or do you think they're getting enough?
I would say right now, and it's going to be individualized, but as a society, I would say right now we're probably more distracted than we should be, that we should be spending more time with our kids, but it has to be time that is quality. And there's a lot of people that will say, okay, well, I sit down with my kids and we watch a show together or those sorts of things, but it has to be activities that sponsor a development of the relationship or development of skills. Reading together, going out and playing sports together, coaching them on teams, those sorts of things are all activities that develop the relationship and build skills, rather than passive spending time like, oh, well, I spent time with my daughter because I took her to the grocery store with me, right? It needs to be something that is going to engender an aspect of relationship development for them, not just for you.
Yeah, yeah. But so the trouble is, so if we do not kind of like, when we give our children attention and we give it, our 100% attention.
Yeah.
The trouble is, they will come back for more and more, and they expect you to
it's
be
addictive.
There. Yeah. It's like a drug, isn't it? It's like addictive all the time, and they expect it, and and the trouble is, we can't do it all the time, can we?
No, you can't, because you have to have self-care in there, and you also have to ensure that you're taking care of your responsibilities as an adult, right? Which is, going to work and taking care of your spouse and those sorts of things. Like, one of the biggest complaints I hear from friends and colleagues, that sort of thing, is that, the kids become the center of attention in a relationship, and the original relationship gets put to the side. And so that starts to fail. And when that starts to fail, then everything else starts to crumble, right? You have to make sure that you're focusing as much on your partner as you are on your kids. I mean, granted, we should probably be giving a little bit more to our kids, but there still has to be something left in there for your partner and for you and for your responsibilities, your job, that sort of thing. So it's really tough to balance it all out, but that's the struggle of life. It's finding balance.
Yeah. And also the trouble is, when we don't pay attention to our children, what they do is they ignore us. They think, okay, it's payback time. So when dad or mum says, do something, they completely ignore us. The behavior changes and everything, and I tell you what, let's watch this video.
Sure.
A try to gain undue attention is one of a mistaken child's goals. There is, of course, nothing wrong in wanting and seeking attention. Inclusive attention can be constructive and purposeful. However, when child distracts you or wants something from you all the time, you naturally feel annoyed. This is what writers refer to as the inappropriate or maladaptive expressions of attention, and it's not rare to see this behavior. Actually, undue attention seeking is the most common mistaken child's goal. To understand how can it look and what to do about it, let's look at the story of Jane, a 3-year-old girl. But before we jump into it, please like and subscribe this video. It's really helpful for my growth. Now back to Jane. Jane's mom was doing some work stuff. She needed to write an important email. Her daughter, Jane, who was playing on the floor.
Sorry about that, guys. I think it was the wrong video, actually. But anyway, but the trouble is, it's like in that one, it's like, that if you got a child around you, like 24 hours a day, say, around your
Yeah.
feet, 24 hours a day, it can be a really big pain, can it? Because, they're looking for all this attention. And if they're not kind of like, if you're not kind of like showing them the attention,
Yeah.
their behavior will probably get worse, wouldn't it?
Well, I think that behavior turns into a codependence, and that's an issue, right? When they're so dependent on the parent that they're incapable of doing things for themselves, that's a problem. So that's the importance of that balance. Is you need to foster independence with your child without that independence becoming the feeling of neglect. And so I'll give you an example from my personal life as to something that's just come up, and I mentioned to you quickly before we jumped on live. My youngest daughter came to me yesterday, didn't want to go to school, and she had a meltdown, and I spent some time with her to understand why it was, and it turns out that a playground supervisor at the school, who also works there, had physically abused her, had hit her and pushed her. And so she was terrified of going to school. And I asked her, how long has this been going on for? And she said, for the past couple months. And I said, why didn't you tell us? And she said, well, because you're always so busy with my older sisters that I never get a chance to talk to you. And so, that was soul crushing for me, that I have not given her the attention that she needed to be able to express to me a problem that was going on in her life, right? That I have been so focused on dealing with her older sister's issues that I had neglected to figure out if there were any issues that were happening in her life. So fostering independence is important, but ensuring that you also balance that with the time and individual care for each child is so important. So there's never any one right answer to these things. It's always, a little of this and a little of that winds up being the right answer, that you have to balance it out.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the trouble is, we need to balance it out, because if we keep on kind of like paying attention to our children all the time, we're never going to get anything done. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that big problem again is self-care too, right? If you put everything into your kids, there's nothing left for yourself, and then eventually you collapse in on yourself and you're useless for your kids. So you have to make sure that there's that time to just take a step back, deal with the things that are going on in your head, so that you can be valuable to your child.
Yeah. How do you cope? Because you've got all girls, so
Yeah.
and trouble is, sometimes girls are like wanting makeup, and they wanting dolls, and you name it, they want everything. How do you cope in a family? Because I feel sorry for you. You got not just your girls, you got your wife too. So that's another woman added on. You know what I mean?
I very much know what you mean. I would say that I'm blessed to have the 3 girls that I do. I'm hoping that they're going to take care of me when I'm older. It certainly presents some unique challenges. Everything in our household is extremely emotional. We're starting to get, because my oldest is 10, we're starting to get the hormones coming into the household. And, she asked my wife for a padded bra the other week. And so we're starting to see a lot of changes. But how do I take care of myself? Well, I see a counselor who helps me to talk through things, because, with the amount of stuff going on in my life, that's a pretty important thing to have somebody that I can bounce ideas off of, those sorts of things. I have my podcast, which is a huge help for me. I can get a lot of things off my chest. I can talk through the sort of things that I need to do in order to improve myself as a parent. For me, that's a huge sense of self-care, much as I'm sure this podcast is for you. And I got brain training earlier this year in terms of being able to adjust how my brain reacts to certain situations. I also spend time doing activities that I really enjoy. I spend time fishing. I spend time out in the wilderness, hiking, those sorts of things, in order to make sure that I have that individual time to recharge. So those are some of the things that I do.
Yeah. We all need time out now and again.
Yeah.
From the family, from kind of like from our children and everything. So when you kind of like because when you got like say around about 3 or 4 women in your household, how do you cope when everything's going through, like you're having a bad day at work, you come home and there's arguments going on in the household? How do you cope? Do you kind of like scream and shout, or do you just go into the bedroom and lock yourself
I used to.
away?
Yeah, I used to scream and shout, and that has been a big problem of mine for a long time. And that's a big part of the things that I've been focusing on for the past 5 months since I started the podcast, was moving away from that type of a reaction. So I tend to hyper focus on other things. I will hyper focus on a craft, as an example. So I do leather working. I'll go up to my office and I'll sit and I'll make a wallet, as an example, because it interests me. I will go fishing. I'll spend time in the backyard mowing the lawn, or that sort of thing. I take the dog for a walk. I try and find the things that I can engage with that re-energize me, that provide me with the ability to come back into the situation and actually provide value to my wife and to my kids.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't always work, but I try.
No, but it's not. You don't. But it's not. But do you find it difficult sometimes? So when you kind of like when when your wife is kind of like, what is she? Is your wife placid or not?
No. My wife is ex-military. She's a mechanical engineer from the Canadian Navy, and left the Navy about 13 or 14 years ago. But she's still, she was an officer in the military, so she's very. She doesn't sit by and allow anything to happen. She's very involved.
Right, okay.
So she keeps me in line, and quite frankly, my personality requires that, because otherwise I'm all over the place. I'm an ADHD individual, so I bounce all over the place until something catches my focus. And so my wife makes sure that my range of bouncing all over the place is a fairly narrow focus.
Yeah. I think we always need somebody in our life to kind of like, be next to us and say, okay, everything's going to be all right, but you've gone far enough. Now you need to stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the trouble with me, I used to be a fiery character where, if someone really winded me up, it's got to take a while to wind me up. But when I get to that boiling point
Yeah.
in my, then that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And
I
I
know
will,
exactly what you mean. You're the
yeah,
pressure cooker without a release valve. It
yeah,
just,
that's it. Yeah,
once you
yeah.
go, there's really no calming it down.
No,
Yeah, I totally get that.
yeah.
How do you deal
Ask
with
my
it now?
wife. She's seen me. I'm not usually like it now, but
Yeah.
I remember on several times, my wife has actually kind of like said to me, Steve, enough is enough, you know. And she's the only person actually not even my dad. She's the only person that can calm me down and say, calm it down now.
Yeah.
And
And do
so
you find that works? Is it like this that it works, or does it take some time? Is that kind of the point where you go,
as soon as she says
okay,
that, I think it does. Hang on for a second. If I kind of like, get in a rant or something like that, and I get over, I think as soon as you say it, it's done over, isn't it? It's finished. Yeah. So it's like, soon it's mentioned, it's over done with. You know what I mean?
yeah, I do. I wish my wife had that impact on me. A lot of
I haven't got a choice.
some of
I'm
the time she
afraid.
lights the fuse, and she happens to be the reason for it, going off. But a lot of the time she may say something that sets me off because we're two alpha personalities, but it usually only takes me a short period of time before I realize that I was wrong. Within a couple hours, I'm like, oh, Warren, you shouldn't have done that. Let's go apologize to Rachel, because I've gotten very good at apologies because of the amount of mistakes I have made.
Look, we're men, all right? We're
Yeah.
bound to make mistakes,
Yeah.
and I used to kind of like, I used to fib to my wife, right?
Yeah.
But now she's got me kind of doing this. If I say something to my wife, like a fib, she'll go back, well, that's a lie, isn't it? Then she'll look at me and say, yeah, that was a lie.
Yeah.
So she completely knows. So she's
You know
not
the
stupid.
the expression "to err is human"? It should probably be "to err is male," right?
Oh,
It's very much something that we are good at. We're good at making mistakes, figuring them out, and then correcting course, I think.
oh gosh, she's it's but the trouble is like, when you kind of like, because adults as well, I
Mhm.
feel sometimes with adults, we do look for attention too, don't we?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly if it's one of our love languages. Like, have you ever heard of the 5 love languages? Like
No.
touch, recognition, uh, positive words, that kind of stuff. Like there's 5 love languages,
Yeah.
and one of them is essentially attention, right? And so if you feed into that, it can become very, very addictive and codependent. And so you have to make sure that you have a semblance of independence and balance in that. I know some people where they can't be apart from their spouse. It causes them an immense amount of stress to be away from them. And that codependence, if they're both codependent, it is not such a bad thing. But if one is codependent, that becomes a really big problem in the relationship. And so, we need to, in both our partners, our friends, our kids, you need to recognize what somebody requires as a love language and be prepared as to whether you're willing to offer that.
Yeah. My wife is like, what was I going to say? She will kind of like, if I'm out of order anytime, she'll tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get me? But with the love language or something like that, or kind of like, if she goes out, she's only got to go out for about 5 minutes and I miss her.
Yeah.
She's got to go up the shop. It's like, then it's like when she comes back, I've got a problem at the moment where, said about attention, where I think I'm doing it myself actually. Oh, bugger! I just noticed.
It's amazing the self-realizations that can happen through a conversation.
Thank you very much, Warren. You wait till I get you, mate. No, but it's like she's got to go. When she goes out, my wife goes out.
Mm-hmm.
I miss her, but when she comes back in, I go, "Where you been?
Mm-hmm.
Who you been talking with?" I've had that problem for a while. I've kind of been sorting it out.
The key though to recognizing when that attention seeking has gone too far is when negative activities replace positive ones to get the attention, right? So if you started going out, like if when your wife goes to the shop, if all of a sudden you started making problems around the house, like breaking things or going and doing something that caused her to no longer want to leave the house because you needed that attention, you needed her around you, that's when it's crossed the line. But if you are, when she comes back, showering her with positive attention, I think that's okay. That, that's positive attention seeking.
Yeah.
It's when it turns into, well, I'm going to break this thing so that you never leave again.
Oh, no, I won't do that to her. No.
Yeah.
I'm not like that. No.
So I think you're still okay, Steve.
Thank goodness for that. But I do have a problem where I used to have a problem where, like, attention seeking, but also jealousy as well. Where she only had to go up the shop.
That's a big one. Yeah.
And we're talking about that next week if I'm still around today.
Yeah.
But we've still got 24 hours.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Good. Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, like, jealousy is like a big thing with me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, when we first got married, right, and it still does it now, she will tell you to your face, she will say, I am a very jealous sort of guy. Right? She's only got to go out and I'll say to her, where you been, what you doing, things like that. It was really, really bad a while back. Really, really bad. It's calmed down a little bit now. I don't seem to do it much now. Do I? It's calmed down now, isn't it? No?
It's a hard one to overcome.
She's shaking her head. She's thinking, well, and laughing at the same time. I would kill her in a minute. I'll get her back in a minute. I'll whack her with my bottle, my Coca-Cola bottle. But, no, I'm not joking. But the trouble is, Sophie, it's good to kind of like have people, who we love and, who we kind of like appreciate.
Yeah.
And to come along and say, look, calm down. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
And that's it. And with me, it was. I think it was attention really because.
Yeah.
I was thought. I said to my wife sometimes. I said, "Well, you're not talking to me. You're always playing on the phone, or like when I go to bed, I says, oh, can I have a cuddle, things like that." And she said, "Yeah, all right then." It's like other things as well. I said, and it goes into a great big ball then.
Yes.
And I wind myself up. I'm the person who winds myself up and make it a big, a big war picture, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
it's a tough one to get past because you want that attention because it is so rewarding, right? Both intrinsically and extrinsically. And you don't want anybody else to receive it because you assume that it is a commodity that there's a scarcity of supply. And it's not until we realize that there is no scarcity of supply, that it's a never-ending resource and that they can give you, tons of attention, and it's, 10 times attention versus 9 times attention isn't going to make a difference to you because it's just attention that's rewarding. And so you have to get past that and recognize that it's not in short supply, that there's lots of it for you to have, that nobody's going to use up your attention. And that tends to help. So, but it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. Jealousy is really hard, particularly amongst kids. That's another topic for us.
This is the second podcast I've done, which is kind of like it back at me. Which is kind of like, it's like a bouncing ball. Chuck the ball and it just come back to me right in the face.
Yeah. Hey, every single one of my podcasts is a shot at myself. I've designed it that way, is to explore the flaws in my parenting. And so every episode I feel like I'm learning and getting better.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, there you go, guys. There you go. Second time someone's caught me out. But don't worry about this Warren, I know where he lives. I'll send him. I'll send the Evans around and get him. Don't worry.
Love it.
Yeah, guys. Don't forget, follow. As I say every week, please follow Warren. He's really good. I love it every time. And don't forget, please support us, and hopefully we'll be here next week. And if we are here next week, our title will be Jealousy next week. And that is a
Fantastic.
big topic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Do you ever get jealous?
Not so much anymore. I used to. I've managed to figure out how to overcome it, but yeah.
Right. So that's another topic for next week.
Perfect.
Okay, guys. Thank you
Okay.
very much. I'm going to be back around about 8 o'clock tonight. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.